So I'm so excited to talk to you guys about my Little Thinkers newsletter for Christmas, where we wonder, is it Santa or is it Satan? Like, why do we let a strange man into our home? And why do we, leave him cookies? What are these different stories around Santa or Satan? And so one of the things that I'm going to go into in this episode is we're going to talk about Santa or Christ being the story of the Christos oil dropping from your Claustrum down to your solar plexus and the process of raising that back up, right? That is one of the many meanings of this Christmas story of Santa coming down the chimney.
This juice or this whatever substance actually passes what's called the Claustrum, which is where they got Santa Claus. So it goes down the chimney and back up the chimney.
The Claustrum is a little closet just below the cerebrum where all the cerebrospinal fluids, i.e. chrism, is produced. It's called the Holy or the Santa Claustrum. So Santa Claus is in your head at the North Pole. Yeah. Well, obviously this is the North Pole. This point here in acupuncture is called Polaris, the North Pole. The Chinese know this, and this is the dome of heaven. The Claustrum, which is here, the Santa Claustrum, it releases oils which go down the chimney, down to the solar plexus, or the sacral plexus.
Inside our head, in the skull, we have the cerebrum, and there's a special part in it called the claustrum. This claustrum is right in the middle of our head, and it releases a special kind of brain fluid, an oil. In ancient Greek, this fluid was known as Christos, or the Christ. This wonderful fluid starts from the cerebrum and flows down through the...
So there's all these different stories, there's all these different theories, there's all these different ideas about who Santa is, what the Santa Claus story is, how it relates to Christ, what is the story of this Christos oil, but also, did you know that there's also symbolism of Santa Claus possibly representing the Pied Piper? Do you remember the Pied Piper? The guy that would come to town and play music on his piper, and only the children could hear, and the children would then be lured off and away, lured with this Pied Piper, who would then in turn turn the children over to some evil witch or to some dark layer or dark force at the end of the day. It's actually pretty freaky. Every month when the moon travels into your zodiac sign, this Christos oil, this life force oil that sits in your Claustrum in the center of your brain where your pituitary and your pineal gland is released and travels down your spinal cord, down all the way to your solar plexus, okay? And that is where you hear the saying, you need to raise your vibration. You need to raise that Christos oil back up, okay? So going into this a little deeper to understand what I'm saying is think about it as activating your quote-unquote kundalini. So when we talk about Christ in general, from an esoteric lens, we're talking about an overarching collective consciousness, a unity consciousness, oneness, wholeness, where everything is all, where there's no separation, there's no duality. Because the false light, in a sense, is operating from points of duality, where they're always trying to project things in this blinding way where it's either too intense or it's falsely leading you. It's blindly leading you to something that just is not what it seems to be. And so when we talk about Christ, we're actually talking about, besides the literal Christos oil that travels up and down from the Claustrum, we're talking about an overarching collective unity consciousness of all, right? And that they're all essentially the same thing. An overarching collective consciousness, a unity consciousness, oneness, wholeness, where everything is all, where there's no separation, there's no duality. Because the false light, in a sense, is operating from points of duality, where they're always trying to project things in this blinding way where it's either too intense or it's falsely leading you. It's blindly leading you to something that just is not what it seems to be. But essentially, when we're talking about this type of consciousness, it's, from my understanding, it is a merging. It is when you have the left hemisphere of the brain, the masculine side of the brain, and the feminine side of the brain, like coming together, merging into harmony, into balance. Like that is when you are becoming sovereign in your spiritual self, so to speak. I realize I say so to speak a lot, so I'm trying to watch myself there. But so that's really what we're trying to do, is because in this world in this reality that we're currently in, we see so much, like I just said, so much extreme, so much intensity with the false light on one side, extreme, on the other side, extreme. And in this world, we are very much pushing the logic, left brain side of reality without any regard, or without regard for the right hemisphere, the creative side or the intuitive side. So we're saying logic, but when we're forgetting like our intuitive, creative side of the brain, right? So when we merge the right hemisphere, the left hemisphere, when we merge and bring together into harmony, into balance, the left side and the right side of the brain, essentially we are becoming our spiritual, sovereign, free beings, and experiencing more, I guess I want to say, more of a truth, or more of a real, quote unquote, reality than, like, we're taking layers back off the veil, and we're seeing kind of with things more of what they are. We're bringing the imbalanced, balanced, like whatever is not making sense or like, we're merging what is not together, if that makes sense. And another point I want to make is it's not just merging like the left hemisphere, the right, the masculine and the feminine aspects of the brain or of consciousness, but it's also like not neglecting so we have a physical body, we have an emotional body, we have a spiritual body, and we need to not neglect them. And we, again, in this world, we're very logic, left brain focused, and we suppress like intuition, creativity, like we suppress the right, or right brain, or whatever that would represent. We suppress it, the feminine aspect. And so we neglect then our spiritual bodies, we neglect our emotional bodies, we neglect our mental bodies, and we have to actually start paying attention to them and giving them more value and more attention, because when you give something attention and focus, obviously that will bring it into your consciousness, into light, and then you can address things and start to find a solution to them if there is one. But back to what we push, this left brain, this logic type of thinking, and we suppress, feminine, right side. And this has nothing to do with like the modern day, it has nothing to do with anything in society like this. This is strictly like left side of the brain, right side of the brain. It has nothing to do with gender roles, anything like made up belief systems, constructs. This is literally talking about your spirit and your soul merging with your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, everything as like coming together as one. And I'm sorry if that's a little bit over your heads, but it should come together a little bit. Now with this whole left brain society that is dominating today, we also see that with this type of thinking comes in turn a victimization type of consciousness, and a consciousness of scarcity, and a consciousness of like this is my own word for me, a consciousness of like powerlessness, because we are sovereign spiritual beings, like, and we are taking away our own power and putting and projecting it onto someone else, thinking that they're going to do something. Like it's literally taking it's disempowering beings that are truly all powerful and manipulating us to think that what we're doing in a sense is good when we don't realize we are being hoodwinked. And that's kind of the whole point of it, is that until you realize, you have to stop being lazy until you do actually the work yourself. And I know you think, oh, well, I just can't, I'm so busy, I have too much to do, blah, blah, blah. That's the whole point. And so you're going to keep coming back on the karmic wheel. But not to get too far off. in my opinion, by pushing this type of left brain society, we're suppressing, obviously, the free will, the being's free will and the ability to be your sovereign being in the spiritual form, in the physical, where you're merged and you're a harmony and you're a balance of this masculine and feminine, where you have your intuition, you have your creativity, and you also have your logic, and you also have your discernment, but you're also not blindly accepting things as what you're told, and you're not like walking with blind faith, so to speak, you know? And so when you have this, I guess when you get to a point of that, then you are somewhat activating, you can more so activate this unity or this oneness or this Christ consciousness. It is easier to get up to that level. And I also want to say, like, I don't want to get too far off, but also working on meditation and working on balancing your chakras and ridding whatever shouldn't be there, taking anything out of balance with your chakras as well, and just your entire body will also help you align to get to this level of consciousness as well. And for one last little point that I'd like to make about karma is that in this reality we live in, karma is the default. Unless you know how karma works, your default setting is always set at karma. So, like, think about it as like a vending machine, right? You put $1 in the vending machine, you hit the M&Ms, the M&Ms are going to come out, right? That's kind of how karma works. You have an action, the action creates some sort of end result. Until you understand how karma really works, then you're essentially living in this vending machine of unconscious actions that you don't realize have some effect onto you. And so, yes, that is really interesting, right? And so I won't go too deep into it in this episode, but Saturn is very much symbolism for Satan or the devil in many different cultures. And if you look at the name Santa Claus, it kind of is very representative of Satan. And if you look into the whole Santa Claus story, or even this picture that I have on my newsletter with the planet Saturn in there, and you see Santa with the child, if you're familiar with Saturn, the real, like, Saturn symbolism, you know that Saturn is also is Kronos. Saturn is the god of time. And this is because Saturn crystallizes you into matter. So when you come into material existence or whatever, you go through Saturn, which is what takes the spirit and materializes it or makes it physical or crystallizes it. That's why you see so many of these people obsessed with Saturn worship and doing Satan worship, is because they like the 3D. They like this realm. They like the material, physical realm of money and vanity and time. And so that's another symbol of Saturn, is time, Father Time. And one thing that if you go on Google and look up, like, you know, Father Time or Kronos or Saturn, an old picture that you'll see is of Saturn, a symbolism of Saturn as personification. So you'll see an old man personified as Saturn eating a child, because the saying is that Saturn eats his children, because everyone comes through Saturn, like I just said, to materialize. You crystallize into actual physical matter and material form. And when you leave this earth or this body or this avatar or whatever, the time has come. So Saturn comes back to eat you, so to speak. Saturn comes back for his children. They come back to eat you. And that's one of the symbolisms that I kind of see with Saturn, and this picture of Saturn holding, like, you know, the baby of Father Time. He's going to come and, you know, Saturn is all encompassing, right? So Saturn brings you into the world and Saturn takes you out. Saturn crystallizes you and Saturn takes you out of this world when the time has come, right? And not just that, with the symbolism of Saturn, there's actually a festival, Saturnalia, that is celebrated for a week in December. It's a Roman festival that's celebrated around Christmas time, and it's a week-long festival to celebrate the Roman god Saturn. So everything is literally Saturn worship, sun worship. It's literally planetary idol, fake, false idol worship. And that's what paganism is. Paganism is sun worship, whereas Saturnalia is Saturn worship. And the other, I'm not going to get into it in this episode because it'll be my next one coming out, so stay tuned for that. But we're going to get into what Saturn actually is, what the symbolism is around the actual planet Saturn, and what they're actually talking about. So stay tuned because that's going to be the next episode. And it's going to go into kind of like what the moon is. Well, I can't really tell you what the moon is, but it's going to go into the theory of what the moon is. And so there's actually even darker stories and symbolism that goes. So there's so many different stories around Santa and this whole Christmas thing and where it comes from in paganism and Saturnalia. And basically it's Father Christmas, Santa Claus, Father Christmas. We got, Saint Nicolas. And so apparently Saint Nicolas was born in modern day Turkey. And, he became like some symbol of gift giving to children, but it also became some symbol for prostitution. I shit you not, because there's this a story about, basically it's like this tale about Saint Nicholas hearing about 3 sisters who were like forced to be prostitutes or live a life of sex work in order to, earn money so that they could survive and eat. And so apparently, because after hearing the story, Saint Nicholas was just so moved by this that he went over to their chimney and like threw or tossed a couple coins down their chimney to help them out. There's like apparently some story that Santa, you heard about these women being prostitutes or sex workers, and he went and threw some fucking money down their chimney. Another story or another tale around this, Christmas thing is that apparently like, Santa there's a guy, apparently he murdered 3 little boys and like, I don't know, dismembered their bodies and put them into like, barrels or whatever. And Saint Nicholas or whatever apparently sensed this crime, came and like resurrected the children, so to speak. But a lot of what interests me is apparently a lot of this symbolism or whatever for Saturn for Saturn, for Santa, for Christmas, a lot of it comes from the North Pole, or like the tale of like the North Pole. We have Santa and his elves are his little helpers working at the North Pole. And there is some deep, deep symbolism around that. And whether or not, I don't know if you guys have ever seen like the Tree of Life or the Norse depiction of the Tree of Life, where it's called the Yggdrasil. And it looks like there's different realms. There's realms below us. There's realms above us. And we are what they call Midgard, like Middle Earth, Midgard. And so my personal theory is that must be like where the North Pole is, might be some sort of portal or realm where we can get to the lower worlds or the heavenly worlds. I'm not quite sure. Obviously, I haven't gone yet. But there's theories that there are truly elves or fairy, whatever you want to call them, that live in the North Pole area. That's where there's, the giants are said to live in a different realm below us, possibly in the outer lands beyond us, or even underneath us. And in the, when I say underneath us, I mean like literally like in the soil underneath us, not in another realm underneath, like in the grounds underneath us. And we really don't know. There's stories that talk about, I don't want to say cloning, but making hybrids or making types of beings that were like these little elf like helpers, that I don't want to call them slave workers, but in a sense it's like a very dark story about like these workers slaving away. And it's only really, I think that I want to correlate the Santa red and white obvious outfit to the Knights Templar, which it does have its own connection to that. However, in modern day society now, because it's so big, actually I did the research onto this. Some of the Santa symbolism of him being in like this red and white suit, yes, it comes from Templars and other secret societies, but it also comes from fucking Coca-Cola marketing, like the brand Coca-Cola, the drink. You picture the Santa Claus with the Coca-Cola. Yeah, some of that marketing or some of his outfit being like this red and white is also correlated to marketing and to the Coca-Cola. But also, if you think about it, red and orange, if you think about McDonald's, yellow, those are colors that all attract us in our lower chakras to food, to sex, to those primal primal desires that we are pulled to, and the people who set up our world are very, very much aware of how our human brain works, and things that trigger us and things that pull us, or things that make us desire it more, and they really use it to their advantage. So keep that in mind. But I really truly wonder what is happening at the North Pole, and why do we just, don't you think it's kind of weird, of all people, we allow like this weird old man with a bag of presents to come into our house, and we leave him freaking cookies and stuff? Don't you find that odd? So let me go into why, quote unquote, the symbolism behind why Santa gives you a quote unquote present. And this present, if we're talking about another symbol of Saturn, same thing. Saturn, Santa, another symbol is your Claustrum. When the Christos oil that goes up and down your spine and it remains in your Claustrum, in your pineal gland, when that is released from your Claustrum, from the center of the brain, it travels down your chimney, or it travels down your 33 vertebrae, down into your sacrum or your solar plexus. And when it gets there, that's when you need to raise it back up to your pineal gland to, boom, illuminate yourself. And that is what Santa is, that's the present that Santa is bringing you. That's another symbol of Santa bringing gifts, is when your Christos oil comes from your Claustrum, drops the 33 vertebrae down the chimney to your sacrum, to your solar plexus, and then you need to raise that back up. When the moon is in your zodiac sign every month, this is when the oil, your life force oil, your seed drops. Now, there's ways that you need to retain the seed, and a lot of things that people don't realize is like porn is the society is focused on pulling your life force out of you. So like think about like Jacob's ladder or whatever. That's talking about your spine as well. The Jacob's ladder that you see in all the symbolism and Freemasonry or whatever, in my opinion, that's talking about your spine. It's it's talking about the Christos oil traveling down your spine to your solar plexus, and then you raising it back up to your pineal gland and illuminating yourself, or opening your pineal gland, or coming into balance with your masculine and feminine hemispheres of your brain. This is just my thoughts and opinion. I'm not like looking at any research while I do this. I'm just giving you my thoughts on it. And so when we talk about, the Christos oil or whatever, think about your bodily fluids, your blood, your saliva, your urine, your Christos oil. Think about this, all life force. This is all what makes us alive, right? These are like the four rivers. In the Bible, it talks about 4 rivers that flow from Eden, I think it is. And that is what I've read is correlated to our bodily fluids, these 4 bodily fluids, your blood, your saliva, your urine, and your Christos oil, right? And if you look at today's society, everything is in a way trying to pull these fluids out of you, like with porn, okay? With, terrible foods, with not having any true knowledge of how our body works with the spiritual and the physical, And so everything in like the society is basically formulated in a sense to drag out our life force, that's what Loosh is. Loosh is your focus and attention, your emotional focus and attention, to drag that out of us, because it can be used as like food. It can be used as energy to manifest. I mean, if you think about like 9/11, right? When everyone saw this, on TV, whether it be real or not, put that to the side. Everyone was basically traumatized at that same point watching the same thing. And everyone was basically, and this is why we consented to go into quote unquote war, right? It's because you affect a big population of people. And from that, with everyone thinking the same thing, that's how you manifest. I mean, if you think about how you manifest on an individual level, you have to raise your vibration. You have to think of like a certain thing. You have to believe that you are what you are manifesting in order to bring it into fruition, right? So if you have a collective group of people all doing this together, all focused on something, that is why I don't really think that they care about freeing themselves of free karma, so to speak. I think they're more so trying to they're really trying to have us manifest their evil reality. And that is why they tell us everything up front. That is why they tell us everything that they're doing, besides avoiding the karmic consequence of it. If they want to truly manifest what they want to manifest, then they have to do it like in an organic way. Their reality will not truly manifest in the regard that they want it to manifest in if they're not open and honest with what they're doing. So if you think about it, like with Elon Musk and Trump, if they really want to manifest something, they might not care about if they're going to get karmic like consequence from it. They want it to be done right. And by doing it right, you got to tell people what it is in order for them to truly manifest it. I hope that makes any bit of sense whatsoever. So in the center of your brain is called the claustrum. And in the claustrum, you have the pineal and the pituitary gland, okay? Now, when the moon is in your sun sign or your zodiac sign every month, this is when this life force oil, this Christos oil that is in your claustrum, drops down your spine, 33 vertebrae down your spine, or drops down the chimney, this claustrum, this Christos oil from your claustrum drops down your spinal cord, down to your sacrum or your solar plexus. And every month, this is what they talk about when you need to like raise your vibration. You need to bring that Christos oil back up the 33 vertebrae, back up the chimney to hit your pineal gland, and that way you activate your pineal gland and hit the crystals, and the oil activates or illuminates and brings you into, I guess, spirit. And so that is what is going down that is Santa going down the chimney. It's the Christos or the Christ oil, the life force oil that sits in the claustrum, in the brain, the center of the brain. When it is in your zodiac sign every month, it travels down the 33 vertebrae in your spine into your solar plexus. And that is where you need to retain your seeds. So you don't do drugs, you don't drink, you eat a healthy alkaline diet, you don't watch porn, you don't do like sinful things, you meditate, you have positive thoughts and affirmations, and that is how you retain and keep this Christos oil, the seed, and help raise it back up, because this is actually what regenerates your cells and regenerates all the fluids and everything in all the cells in your body. And this is what fuels our life force. So this is the life force. So without this oil, we are nothing. This is what keeps us going. This is what keeps. But so yeah, guys, just kind of freely talking about this subject of Christ and Santa and this Christos oil, which is talking about our life force that goes through our spinal cord, or what I would like to say, goes through our chakra centers. And this is what regenerates our cells and actually does bring us health and stuff. But there are so many other stories around Christmas. Like, if you think everything is like a ritual or everything is some sort of practice, right? Like, think about this. Like, we used to take kids, like our parents used to take us as children to the mall, which, if you think about it, the whole thing is just satanic. You're going to buy gifts with money, which is just a curse, like a system that we're cursed under to work for something we've already worked for and pay taxes for something it's just such madness and satanic in and of itself. So we're going to buy more vanity, more vain things for our material existence at the mall for other people and for ourselves. And we go and we take little kids to go sit on a grown old man's lap dressed up as this Santa figure who, again, was known as Saturn or Satan or the Pied Piper, or someone who kidnapped kids, or someone who fed and funded the prostitutes of the day. Or the elves. Who knows? Maybe the little elves were prostitutes. Who freaking knows? But so we would take kids, and we still do, to go sit on some old man's lap, some old fucking freak's lap. We don't know this man. Do we even do criminal background checks on them? Like, legitimately, this is insanity. Like, I'm sitting here thinking about this. I'm like thinking, oh my God, this is the one time a year where we allow sexual predators to be predators. If you really think about it, that's really what it is. These fucking freak people. I mean, I'm sure it's like a job for some people now. And there's some men that do look like a Santa, right? And it's a job. But if you think about it, why would they, oh, come sit on my lap. What do you want? It's like, oh my God. Now I'm thinking about it. It's kind of sexual. Is that not sexual? Ho, ho. And it's like, okay, well, what if Faith, me just being 32 years old, I swear to God, I should go do this because, like, it'd be fun just in my head for me. I should go to the mall and, like, I'd be like, I want to sit on Santa's lap and I want to see, like, just, like, what the fuck happens. I want a picture of it, too. Someone take me to the mall and I want to get a picture going to sit on, maybe I won't sit fully. I'll, like, crouch, like how women go to the bathroom. You know, we don't sit fully on the fucking seat. And I want to see. And I'm sure that there are some that are genuinely good people because, I mean, think about it like this. I mean, I was talking about this last week, and if you follow my Patreon and like all that content about the Nephilim and how their symbolism was like clowns and whatnot. And a lot of our shit today is, helping kids who are sick. Like, we dress up as clowns. Like, a lot of this shit has very sinister and sick origins. However, the people that are involved in it now, they don't know the depths of it. It's like, that's why hierarchies are very satanic. Like the monarchy or like anything with a hierarchy system is just very of authority is very satanic because that's not how God works. We are all powerful within ourselves. And so I find it just very, very bizarre. And not just that, but the red and the white, like the Knights Templars, the being covered in the red and the white is like, that must be some kind of significance. Also the red hat. If you look at, the hospital Shriners hat, like, it looks like a similar red hat or a red cap, like the red, like, when we graduate, we wear Saturn's cube on our head, like the cap and the gown. What is this symbolism of this cap and this gown? So our parents would take us to go sit on some old freaky man's lap that we don't even know, ask him for a gift. We allow this old man to come down our chimney, come into our homes while we're sleeping, and we leave him cookies and whatnot. Like, first of all, it's physically impossible. It'd be physically impossible for someone to come down into your chimney, right? Obviously. I mean, without severely hurting themselves, I guess. But at the Santa Claus's size, that would be physically impossible. And they're supposed to come down and not wake anyone up and drink cookies and milk. Is not enough that you're breaking into my home. I mean, get real. And so I was saying earlier that red and that white from Coca-Cola, I'm looking it up now. I think it started happening about 1930s when Santa and Coca-Cola started to, correlate or come together for their marketing purposes, right? But yeah, it seems like this character, this Santa Claus character, and a lot of other characters we see in religion are just like, they're painted with like a nice painted brush of being this nice, good character, this nice gift giver, this person who's just so jolly and merry and whatever, and so good to people and benevolent. And in reality, it's just covering over the sinister truth of what these stories actually represent. Like, it goes back to prostitution. It goes back to, DNA, epigenetics. It goes back to Pied Piper. I mean, these are not good qualities, and yet we sit here blindly celebrating them. Like, this all traces back again to paganism, to Saturnalia, and which in turn, anything that is paganism always goes back to the Dagons, to worshiping like the Dagon fish, which I'm not going to get into now. But if you're interested, you can reach out or look it up. It's very, very interesting stuff. And so I came across this other story about the Saint Nicolas. So being this famous guy back in the day when parents couldn't afford to make payments, like for like, when I guess this is taxes or they couldn't afford their kids, something like that. They couldn't afford to make payments. The parents couldn't afford their kids, so they would literally sell their kids into prostitution, like their daughters. They would sell their daughters into prostitution if the daughters couldn't get married without one of those dowries or whatever, because it'd be like, in a sense, it's like an insurance policy for the female. But it just doesn't even really make sense because women didn't really have like rights. so to speak. So it's like, I don't get it. You're offering another family an incentive to marry. It just, through prostitution, by giving like a bag of, it just makes no sense. And so you have this guy, this just benevolent figure, this Saint Nicolas that just knew about these prostitutes that couldn't afford to live. And he would just go and throw some fucking shekels or some gold coins down their, chimneys or at their heads, just go over with free bags of gold. You know, you would just go, throws a fucking gold bag down the chimney. And that's how this Saint Nicholas character came to be. I mean, at least that is what I'm reading, and I'm speaking as I'm reading and researching. So if it sounds a little bit confusing, I apologize, but I'm literally just reading as I'm researching, and there's so many different stories that go along with this Santa character. I mean, it's really just incredible. And just really quick, I'm also seeing that back in the day, this Christmas was celebrated in like ancient Rome as a tribute again to the Roman god Saturn, or to their sun god, so to speak, whatever context it was in. And like I said, I think that their sun god or whatever is associated with Saturn, or like, okay, the morning star, which the morning star is actually Venus, but I think that there is some sort of Venus Saturn connection. However, if you look at all these different religions that trace back to paganism and trace back to sun worship and trace back to Mithraism, it all looks as if like they make some sort of sacrifice to their god or to Satan. And their sacrifices sometimes entailed human sacrifices or animal sacrifice, like life. Like, so it makes you wonder, was this Santa Claus figure really a figure of this sacrifice of these naughty or nice kids, or of these people, to this entity? You know, like, why does, and I know this might sound a little bit all over the place, I'm sorry, but why does Santa have why does he know? He knows just when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. So be good for goodness sake. Like, why does he know all this? Why does he have a list if you're naughty or nice? Why is the word naughty typically associated with sex? And, oh, you're naughty. Like, why are we affiliating kids with that? It's, in a sense, it's a form of grooming. It's a form of conditioning. Do you see that shit? And so really, I guess in the most blunt terms, what's happening at the North Pole, it's a big fucking cloning center where they're making elves and hybrids and all this shit for slave labor. And it's probably where they make our Apple iPhones that, you know, the forbidden fruit that we ate, which is technology, I guess, so to speak. But I do believe that wherever the North Pole is, and if you go on my Patreon, I have a beautiful video. I just found it the other day. Whoever uploaded this, thank you so much for it. Whoever shared it, thank you so much. It is of the black rock, or of the Rupus Negro, the black rock that is at the center of our Earth. And you can see it's a big toroidal field. And so it just makes me wonder if that is a realm that we can travel out of here with. Because if you look at other symbolism, and, you know, if you talk to me one-on-one, I'll definitely share this with you. But if you look at my other work, it seems as though there's other symbolism around this North Pole, this black rock, and being able to go to different realms that are outside of our plane or our reality or our dimension or our existence, whatever. And that but that almost seems like it would be the case, considering what we see Cern doing, what they're trying to open these portals to other realms to bring in different entities and stuff. Maybe they're trying to bring in lower level entities to the Midgard, to the Earth, to where we are. And that is what my next episode is going to be a little bit about. It's going to be about, again, it's going to be about the moon. It's going to be about the sun, all that, what the hell is going on around us. And I'm really excited for that. So definitely, again, make sure you're subscribed to Finkers.com. Make sure that you're following the Patreon so that you can see all the content every day. And stay tuned for more. And definitely reach out to me, because I've been feeling just super, super lonely, very isolated, almost kind of like, I feel like a jester, and not in a good way. Like, I feel like I'm in the center of like a ring, talking and like trying to present good things, but in reality, I feel like I'm just being like laughed at, and people are just kind of like throwing tomatoes at me, because I see people are I see the people watch or people listen or people look, but I've asked like repeatedly, hey, can someone like reach out to me, you know, at like, hey, how are you doing? Just like, can I talk to someone? Is this reality like really reality, or am I nuts? And if I am nuts, I would really hope that someone listening would reach out to me and be like, hey, Faith, are you doing okay? Regardless if I'm nuts or not, you know, it's like we have to start being better people. And the way that we're better people is by like starting to do it and be the different example. Okay. And so if I'm stepping up and I'm being truthful and I'm speaking out my truth, then you should turn around and do the same thing, because we are lacking in people with integrity and people with courage to stand up and speak the truth and say, you know what, guys, you might be wrong about this. Or actually, I think we might have been lied to. And to be honest, I'm kind of disappointed that not one person in the course of the 2-3 months that I've been doing my new podcast has reached out. Not one. And like, I'm literally sitting there fucking crying in some of my episodes, or just saying like, guys, I would never, first of all, just side note, I would never leave a person like that in the, especially like stranger or not. I would never leave a person. I would always reach out to them. But what makes it worse, guys, is that you actually know me. That's what makes it worse, and actually really does hurt my feelings that like I have to sit here and beg. Literally, I have to sit here and ask you guys to just reach out and say, hey, how you doing? You all right? Like, I know you're going through a lot, or just like, hey, you need a friend? No, all you guys want to do is just suck up my content and literally suck my fucking soul and energy dry. And it really fucking upsets me. And it really does suck my fucking energy dry. So instead of sucking out every fucking bit of me, why don't you guys like refuel my energy and give me like a little bit more of my power back by like standing in unity together and having integrity and being like, so I like, honestly, this is part of the reason why I put my shit onto Patreon, because I genuinely don't know if people have goodwill for me or not. For me to ask so many times to reach out, or for me to share this type of information to open your eyes and then not hear a goddamn word, but to watch everyone continue to consume it, like I can see everyone like goes to my Thinkers page, or everyone checks out my stories. Everyone is looking, but no one says anything. No one actually has integrity or courage to stand out from the crowd except for me. And that is very disappointing. And it's really going to make me rethink about how I'm doing all of this, because I'm not trying to speak to cowards. I'm not trying to speak to people who want to be silent watchers. If you are afraid and you're that's your journey in your life. I'm not speaking to you people. I'm speaking to people who are spiritual warriors who understand what the fuck this reality is, what is going on, and knows that it's very dark and that this shit is very heavy, and no one should be going through this shit alone. Like, if I'm revealing all this stuff and doing all this research, like I really do, I'm disappointed, and I don't really want to be associated with people like that. I don't find that to be qualities in people that I look up to or admire. I want to admire people that are different, stand out of the crowd, again, stand in their morals and integrity and in truth. And the fact is that I've had to beg and scream and plead, and literally I've been so depressed, crying, like that sometimes I don't even know if I'm crazy or not, because I don't have another brain to bounce like these ideas off of. And I'm not going to beg people to honestly, I'm not going to keep begging. I just really thought that the people I'm speaking to are better, you know, are truly more enlightened and of the highest faith than most. And every day it's like more and more devastating to find out that it's not true. And then even sometimes I'll reach out to people, just myself, because again, I'm fucking going through a lot, and I won't even get an answer, or they'll just ignore me. And I find it truly pathetic. And this is no representation or any kind of this has nothing to do with me. This, what I'm saying right now, whatever these people do has nothing to do with me. That's on them. That is their own shit. I personally don't want people like that in my life. I don't want that type of energy in my life. I can feel when my energy is being like drained and sucked from me, and I can feel when it's being replenished. And this is not an even exchange of like giving and receiving. This is just me giving and like it being taken and taken advantage of. And I really don't appreciate that. I really would like appreciate people that like actually have some morality, ethics, and integrity, because what I'm doing is very, very hard. And like the fact that I'm still fucking asking people, and the same people are looking at the same people that know me. I don't want those people. I don't want those people around me. I don't want them in my life. And I'm going to start weeding people out. I'm not kidding, because it affects my energy. And so literally, if you are just sitting here draining out my fucking energy, please stop, or just know that like I'm going to start removing these people off of my, out of my life and off my social media. I'm starting to drain off of social media because it's so unhealthy. It's literally sucking your loosh out of you. And Finny, just hold on. He's like, shut up already. And I feel like I'm trying to get information out to people who are like literally laughing at me like I'm a clown or a jester in a ring. And I'm telling you, that's how I feel. And if that's how I'm telling you, that's how I feel, I would really appreciate it if you stop not making me feel like that, but if there's something that you can do that wouldn't contribute to those feelings that I get within myself, let me know, because I'm trying to do my part by opening my mouth. Now you guys do yours. Like, I don't get it. And I have a lot of men that look up my stuff too. And it's like, is it because are you not allowed to have female friends? Like, I don't know. I'm 32 years old. If that's the case, I don't even want to I don't want to talk to people like that. That's literally below my fucking level. I'm not going to talk to people who are still in an insecure state of mind where I can't talk to someone because it's just like literally pathetic. I need to weed out these people from my life. Help me do that by showing me who you really are. No, I'm sorry. I just went on a long, long tangent because if you're going to listen to me, then you need to like meet me halfway. And I cannot keep giving and giving and giving and receiving nothing. And it's truly turning into now resentment, like where I'm starting to resent even opening my mouth and being like, okay, well, these people don't even give a shit. They just want to live like in stupidity. They want to live like slaves. So why am I bothering when I could be doing work towards other things that would be actually helping a greater good that might not be doing this? You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's what I need to do, is I need to just focus my attention onto something else. But as I'd like to just, wrap this up a little bit, because I have a few other episodes I'm going to be releasing onto my Patreon. Make sure that you're following that. It's totally free. I don't put them on my Finkers website right now. I'll put the links up to them I'll put the links to my Patreon up on Finkers.com. However, because it's like video and photos and PDFs, and it's heavy, storage. And so Patreon allows me to just put all it up there and I don't have to worry about it. Whereas my website, I have to buy more storage and I have to buy, the space for it. And so I try to just use my website for listening to my podcast, uploading my piece in my writing and, special content on there that, I don't want anyone else to see. And then also, videos and daily posts and whatnot are on Patreon. So please join. I need you guys to join. That's where I post. I post there every day, like 100 times a day. And so if you really want to know what's going on in life, you should really go there. And, so you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is watching us now. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys, are waking up to the reality around us. And, really quickly on the videos I posted about the assassination, I feel like we've been truly betrayed. I feel truly betrayed. And I'm not saying like the whole Jewish people are bad, obviously not, but I do feel like the whole thing is a fucking lie. I do think the whole religion is a fucking lie. God, you don't need a middleman to get to God. Okay. This is going to have to be another episode that I do, because I'm spieling out a little bit. You know what? Maybe I'll end it here. That's what I'll do. I'll end it here and I'll just put up another, just random little, mind talk for today on my Patreon. So you can find this and then find another little audio with it. Woo! Deep breath, guys. Breathe. And I hope that this was fun for you guys. I hope you guys learned, and stay strong. And I'm sending you guys positivity. And stay tuned, because it's going to get even better and even more juicy.